Good afternoon, everybody. Amanda with Sugar Bees Gifts Decor and More. It's taking me a couple times to do this video today, but this is going to be a two-part video. And what we're going to do today is give you a brief tutorial on making basically iron-on transfers within Silhouette, a print and cut transfer. We're going to be using some transfers that we purchased at Hobby Lobby. They're for dark garments. You can purchase them for white garments. And in part 2 of the video, that's going to be the hands-on tutorial. I'm going to show you what transfers we use, how to load your machine with your pick, scan, mat, etc. And yes, you will need a pick, scan, mat for this. Unfortunately, due to the registration marks, it's sometimes difficult just to use your regular mat. So I will recommend using your pick scan mat for this. So these are okay transfers. I would highly recommend them for just those one-off shirts, like a birthday shirt or memorial shirt. I wouldn't recommend these transfers for mass quantities. Just because they're good quality, but after several washings, they're not going to hold up. But this is something else you can offer your customer, especially if they're looking for a print with a full color image in it, such as a photo or a graphic with many different colors in it that would be difficult to do in vinyl, or would be difficult, or it would be expensive for screen printing or plastisol transfers. So this is another option. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to go into Silhouette. The first thing I recommend you do is change your page setup. If my screen looks a little bit different, I am in the business edition of Silhouette, and you can find your page setup right over here at the right. Honestly, I haven't used Silhouette Basic or Designer Studio in so long, I could not tell you where everything is on your screen, but I'll be glad to help you figure it out. Pretty much all the icons are going to be the same. They just may be located in a different place. If you're using Business Edition, it's going to be at the top of your right-hand icon panel. You can just open that up, and just size right here, you're just going to select the size of the sheet that you're using. And I recommend you change your sheet size because you don't want any of your image falling off the side of your sheet, because that's going to get cut off. So I would recommend go ahead and changing your sheet size. We're going to be using 8.5 by 11 transfers. So I've changed my page size to that. The next thing you're going to do is bring the image in that you're using. I highly recommend that your image have a predominant outline around it, because this is going to make it easier for you to cut. And you'll see what I'm talking about when we open up our image here that we're going to use, which is just a Grinch image. I use this a lot for Christmas. And here's our Grinch. As you can see, he has a very predominant outline around him. Now, normally when you're cutting in vinyl, you're not looking for an image like this, because it's got all these halftones in it. And you know, those are really not going to pick up when you trace. Well, it's different when you're printing a transfer, or when you're cutting a transfer, because you're not trying to capture all this detail to cut those fine lines out in vinyl. We're just cutting around him when we do this print and cut. So I've got my Grinch image here. I do want to scale him down a bit to fit the page. Because if you drag him out here, he's going to be falling off the page over here, and we don't want that. And that's another thing. Remind your customers, you can get these sheets in 8.5, excuse me, I believe 11 by 14. The nice inkjet transfers that I use are the Jet Pro transfers, and I do believe they come in legal size. So you have a larger print space. And I'm just sizing them up here. Now the next thing you want to do once you get them to fit to your page, and you can change the aspect ratio a little bit, you can drag them over to stay within your cut lines or your border lines. You can drag them to the left and right, but I wouldn't suggest going too big because you're going to make him look wonky. You're going to make him look stretched out and just not like the Grinch should look. So, but I've stretched him out, you know, like a good 1.5 inches, you can tell up here, and he still looks okay. So we'll just leave him like that, just as long as we stay within our red border here. The next thing we're going to need to do is trace our Grinch. So we're going to come over here to our trace panel, little butterfly sandwich looking guy, and then we're going to select trace area. And we're going to drag our trace box around him. I'm not going to bring him down too far because there is a little trademark down here and I don't want that. But I do need to drag my box over a little bit more to capture all of him. Now when tracing an image like this, as opposed to having all these, how do I explain this? All these cut lines inside, we want to completely fill him with yellow. So we're going to play with our threshold. If the threshold doesn't give us the effect that we want, then we'll turn that completely off and we'll tinker with our high pass filter. So let's see if we can get a good trace on him with the threshold. Remember, we're trying to completely fill him in. So I'm not liking what I'm getting with the threshold, so I'm going to turn it completely off. Let's try our high pass. Sometimes it's a little bit slow. We'll give it a moment to catch up. Okay, 13.25, we're still not getting any reaction. And sometimes I turn it all the way up and then I gradually go back down. It doesn't take this long. Okay, well, let's turn that off and we'll go back to our threshold. I know this image traces very well because I was using it over Christmas, like I said. Let's toggle down with our up and down buttons. Like I said, just give it a couple moments to catch up with you. Okay. We should be able to work with this as long as we have a strong outline. That's what we're looking for, is our strong outline. And you can tell that we have a nice, bold yellow outline around this, so I'm really not concerned. Now what we do here, instead of just clicking trace like you normally would when you're tracing an image, we want to remove this image from its background. So it's just a standalone image without the white background. So we're going to trace and detach. And sometimes this can take a few moments to catch up. But just give it a moment and then you'll be able to grab your image and remove it. So now we have a nice crisp image without a background to work with. And we're just going to go over here and delete that background and then bring it back over. And now you have a nice image that's ready to trace. The next thing we're going to do is print our image. And in part 2 of the video, I'll show you how I load my transfers into my printer. But for now, I'm going to show you how to send it to your printer and set up your preferences on your printer. So let's go to File, Print, and let's go into our preferences. I'm using the Canon MX490. It's a brand new printer. I've only had it maybe 3 months. So my settings may be different from your printer. different brands may be different. A lot of printers, my old printer in general, it had a setting for printed heat transfers. Unfortunately, my new printer does not. When you're printing on dark garments, you do not need to mirror your image. But if you're taking this image that we're looking at here and you're going to print it on a white or light colored fabric, you will need to mirror your image before sending it to print. But today we're going to be using dark transfers, so you do not need to mirror your image. But if you're using a printer that does allow you to choose from the drop-down menu, if your printer has the option to print transfers and it automatically changes those settings for you, it will automatically mirror the image. You don't have to worry about it. But my printer, long story short, I have to manually mirror my image if I'm printing for a light garment. But like I said, we're printing dark garments, and we're going to peel this off like a sticker, so we do not need to worry about mirroring it. If you have any questions about what I just said, please leave a comment below, because I know that probably sounded rather confusing. But okay, we've got our printer preferences open here. We want to be sure that we're printing in photo quality. We want to print the highest print quality that we possibly can, so I'm going to select print quality of high. I'm going to make sure I change my paper size to 8.5 by 11. We're going to be printing this in portrait. The paper source doesn't really matter, but I always like to have the option of seeing a preview before it prints. You want to make sure you do borderless printing as well. So make sure all of your settings are to your liking, as if you were printing a photo. And then press OK, apply, and print. And we're not actually going to send this to the printer just yet. We're going to do that in part 2. It's generating our preview for us, and I am totally happy with that. For part 2, you're going to need a few items. Of course, you're going to need your color inkjet printer. You're going to need your inkjet transfers. You're going to need your phone or digital camera. I have better luck with my digital camera. You're going to need your standard 12 by 12 Cameo mat, as well as your pick scan mat. And then whatever garment you're pressing this on, a Teflon cover sheet, or a parchment paper cover sheet. You're going to need either your iron or your heat press, whichever you have available. These are initially designed for your home iron. So those are a few items that you're going to need, and we'll go over them again in part 2, and we'll see you back here soon. Bye-bye.